Greetings, blessings, and good fortune, everybody. It's another Thursday. We're going live, not at the studio, unfortunately, of KCYP, the city out in McAllen, Texas. And a little bit of transportation trouble. I don't know if you knew this, but 2015 through 2019 Chevrolet pickups have bad trannies. Yeah, they do. And mine bit me. The transmission, that is. Anyway, let me tell you something. We got a great show today. We got a lot to talk about. I'm going to click onto the chat here for a minute. And I'm really hoping we get some participation today. Because, one thing we do need is a united America. One thing we do not have is a united America. That being said, it's going to be okay. We're going to unite. Sooner or later, there will be a common denominator that we'll talk about later. However, one thing I would like to say is thank you very much to Joe Martinez. He's probably at the studio right now getting ready for some of the other shows. So please check him out. KCYP The City 97.7 here in McAllen, Texas. Also going out on TuneIn Radio and Radio Garden. Just, for your viewing and listening pleasures. Now, before we go any further, I definitely want to give us the verse of the day. Okay? A lot of things are spoken about. A lot of things are talked about on this show too. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody, but I do want to put things into perspective, and this verse does that very well. Here it is in Matthew 6:19 and 20. Do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not corrupt, and thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Amen. Amen, brothers and sisters. As you can see, I'm wearing my Bills cap today. Solidarity with the Buffalo Bills, who go to Denver this Saturday. And go Bills, right? So I'm not seeing anybody come in the chat just yet. However, hopefully that will be forthcoming. So here we are. And I've got my notes around here somewhere right here. They're right here. So what I would like to say is this. One, I do have the founding documents of our nation behind us. And there's Barry. Barry shows. There he is right there. See, I got this deal. You can just, bang. And there goes the thumbs up from Barry. Thanks, Barry. I want to give you guys a little bit of news. And I do this pretty often, so it won't be a surprise to you. However, maybe the numbers will be, because a lot of people don't track certain numbers. Bitcoin, it's been in pretty much a channel, and it's $95,342 as of probably a couple hours ago. Not a surprise. It's a channel. Again, goes from 90 to 95. Sometimes it even goes up to 98 and threatens to go through 100,000 again. But those evil, I'm going to keep my language to myself. People, how's that one? People, they're not going to do anything nice. There we go. All right. 97.7 from the studio. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. So we're talking about Bitcoin. No big surprise. It's there. We know where it's at. But ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been paying attention, I would like to showcase a particular asset that's still affordable, still obtainable, but not for very much longer. And we'll get into that in a minute. Silver, $93.11. I'm not kidding you. Go on Texas Metals. It's texmetals.com, Texas Precious Metals. Go on AppMex. Go wherever you want to go. Excuse me, that showcases the precious metals. Silver was at $93.11. And you know what? I'm going to, since I have this at my disposal, if you will, I'm going to go even better. I'm going to give you the current price. Absolutely right now. Dropped a little. Oh boy, $91.81. But here's the reality of silver right now, ladies and gentlemen. The market is such that they will not be able to crush it. They will not be able to crush silver. They won't be able to do it. That's just a fact. Okay? They're going to try. They're going to throw thousands of basically selling paper contracts into the COMEX. It's the Commodities Exchange. It's not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. They already tried it. They smashed it from like 76 down to 72. It's not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. It's just going to keep going. So how about you get you some, okay? Get you some. Yeah. Hit me up. We're on Facebook mostly, so if you want to hit me up on Messenger, go ahead. I'll help you through that process if you're interested. Only if you're interested. I don't push anything on anybody. Gold is at a healthy $4,625 an ounce. Here's the thing about gold and silver, though. There will, and I think it's probably coming up. I'll check this out right now. There is what they call the gold to silver ratio. So you look at gold, and then you say to silver, and then ratio, RATIO, I believe it is, and current. So let's go with what the current gold to silver ratio is. Somebody out there somewhere, goldprice.org, gets my click. And let's see what they say. They're not saying much. That's all they wanted was my click. Gold silver ratio down here. Okay. So 68, I guess. 68 right now. And that's pretty good because it was like 80 something. 80 something. So that means 68 pieces of silver will buy you a piece of gold. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe, and I'm not just the only one, there's people way smarter than me that have been looking at this for a lot longer than I have that are saying 1 to 1 or more. Yes. So 1 piece of silver to 1 piece of gold. And how much is gold right now? $4,625. You be your own investor. I am not at all, any way, in any shape, form, a financial advisor. I'm not. Just not. Now, got some crypto news here. Cointelegraph. Barry says this. Hang on. We got Barry here. I got you on Facebook and YouTube and on the TV. YouTube about 30 seconds behind Facebook. Thank you, Barry. That is, believe it or not, I mean, thank you for watching, by the way, all of you. But you may not know exactly how all this stuff works. I'm not going to pretend I do. But the fact of the matter is there are delays, and I don't always know what they are. But thank you, Barry, for telling me that. Only physical gold or silver, the paper is worthless. Thank you. Absolutely. That one I'm going to put it up. Only physical gold or silver, the paper is worthless. I cannot agree more, Barry. You know what? What they'll do is if you're buying the paper product, they're going to send you a little certificate. You can put it on the wall like I've put on, our founding documents on my wall, right? So they're going to send you that certificate. But you know what? Who knows how many other people have that very same certificate with their name on it for 1 piece of silver in their vault? 100? 1,000? Who knows? You got to have the physical stuff, right? If you want to grab it, you have it sent to you, or Texas Precious Metals has a vault. In fact, they're in Shiner, Texas, about 6 hours away. You drive over there, you see your silver. You go home, you drive back next month, your silver's there. Same silver, nobody else's silver. So that is a recommendation for you. Again, you want to know a little more? Hit me up on the Facebook Messenger. I'll set you square on that. Average mortgage rates, they're still ugly. They're still ugly. I'll take a page out of Trump's book, Too Late Jerome, okay, of the Federal Reserve. Too late Jerome, he's just way too, there's kids watching, so I'm just going to say he's way too late. Yeah. So the average mortgage rate, if you want a house for 30 years, is going to be 6.19. Still not nice. Still not good. Still not, reasonable. A 15-year rate is at 5.51. Lower, but no, man. No, still not enough to stimulate that real estate market. And you know what? That's what the Federal Reserve likes. They don't want anything stimulated but their bank accounts. Excuse me. So, back to crypto. Cointelegraph says this, that Coinbase, this is the headline, Coinbase CEO expects market structure bill markup in a few weeks. Okay. So apparently there was supposed to be a market structure bill markup. So apparently they have a markup before they actually put out the bill, right? So they mark up, this, that, or the other. It's like probably a draft. It's another term for a draft, I would imagine. And then once that draft is in there, there's a certain amount of solidity, meaning they're not as easily shakeable, movable from the position. So this guy at CEO didn't want them to do the markup, so he threw out some information. Maybe it's disinformation. I don't know. Let me explain this to you as I can understand it. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, posted to social media late on a Wednesday saying Coinbase couldn't support the bill as written. Okay. Be that as it may, potentially leading to a postponement in consideration. Okay. So we developed this concern that if the bill went into a markup, the only way to edit some of that base text would have been through an amendment, and amendments had already been submitted, said the Coinbase CEO. And so we didn't think it was prudent to come out of committee with a bunch of these issues in the bill, which would have been catastrophic for the average American consumer. Now, what he believes is catastrophic for the average American consumer and what really is catastrophic for the average American consumer may be two different things. Corinne says, I want a shirt. All right, get with your Aunt Sue. All right, yeah, if you guys want a shirt or whatever, get with me, and I'll see if we can get some swag going. Maybe a cap, a shirt, whatever, the good stuff. Maybe even a polo with the logo right up there on this side. I don't know. Whatever you guys want, we'll see what we can do. So this Coinbase guy, here's what I know. The little bit of what I know about this bill is that it seems to be its detractors are saying it's very intrusive. And what we were hoping for, which is DeFi, decentralized finance, might not appear in the same way we were thinking it would, meaning we could deposit with some bank that uses smart contracts, which hides, I wouldn't say hide, it keeps our privacy, right? It doesn't let everybody know what we have, how we got it, where it is, all that stuff. Like the government wants to dig in, like with their Federal Reserve Gestapo called the IRS. They want to know everything about you. In fact, they do know. There's no really hiding from them. But blockchain was like our last chance, to have some semblance of privacy. The thing that the Fourth Amendment was all about. You remember that amendment, the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure and private property, things like that, papers, all that kind of stuff. So all these things are unfortunately getting sussed out now before we go ballistic into cryptos. Just letting you know that. So here's another one from Cointelegraph. Bank of America CEO warns interest-bearing stablecoins could pull $6 trillion from U.S. banks. Oh, wouldn't that be just a shame? Just a shame. Could you imagine that, guys? $6 trillion being pulled from the banks and put in the hands of people where it goes to work for them? Could you imagine that? Wouldn't that be just horrible for those dirty, rotten, spoiled sons of guns in the banks? That the American people actually get to keep their money? That the American people actually get to have their money work for them? Yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. They don't want that. During the call, Moynihan, banker, whatever, pointed to Treasury-cited studies. Oh, yeah, we'll trust those. Showing that a significant share of bank deposits could shift into stablecoins. Remember, I think I said this a week or two ago, or maybe both. These stablecoins are going to be backed by real assets. That's part of, how an issuer of stablecoins will be able to issue these stablecoins is only if they have one-to-one backing by gold, silver, real estate, Bitcoin, a solid asset. So if you're going to issue a stablecoin, you need to have that equal value, which is, currently it's the Federal Reserve note, in assets, solid assets, which Federal Reserve banks do not have to have, ladies and gentlemen. They hit the money machine and they devalue your life. They devalue your time. They devalue everything you have. The price might rise, but the value is not rising. So this Moynihan guy said that there are studies showing that, it's going to, if they're allowed to pay interest, these stablecoins, which they will be, hopefully, he said the products would function more like a money market mutual fund concept, with funds held in cash, central bank reserves, or short-term treasuries rather than deployed for lending. Now, he may or may be correct, but I'm of the mind that it's going to be better than that. Why do I say that? Because short-term treasuries may or may not be a good asset, but gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, Class A assets. Treasury bonds, not so much. Anyway, this is out of crypto news. Senator warns crypto threatens banking collapse. SVB was just the preview. This guy is called a senator. He could also very easily be called a rat. A rat. Yeah. His name's Blumenthal. I think you know who this guy is. As the Senate Banking Committee, owned by the bank, I guess you ought to call it the Banking Committee, prepares to mark up new crypto market structure legislation this week. A warning from senior, and the story says Democratic. There's no such thing as a Democratic Democrat. Okay? They're not into this whole democracy thing. They're into mob rules, which I guess you could say democracy would be. So just so you know, we are a constitutional republic is the USA. Always have been. Hopefully always will be. So the Democrat senator has reignited debate over crypto's role in the U.S. financial system and its connection to the banking failures of 2023. Also, he brings up something ugly. You know, when they're talking about anything, vis-a-vis crypto, they're going to want to make you think about bad stuff. That's just the way the programming works. That's how these people program people, other people. They say, well, hey, we are looking at crypto, but hey, here's a bad thing about it. Or here's what we are saying happened negatively in the markets or, in your household, if they want to even go that far. The senator argues, again, we could just replace senator with rat. It pretty much would cover all Democrats and all Republicans. The rat said, we could probably do that. I think that'd be, so at some point it'd probably be a wise idea. Argues that the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, was not an isolated accident, but an early signal of what happens when crypto-linked activity collides with an already fragile banking system. You know what, crypto news? I'm going to translate this for people better than you, my watchers, my very much valued listeners. I'm going to say already fragile banking system, as you wrote, should be read already fraudulent banking system. So the SVB thing was not the fault of crypto. It was the fault of fraud. They had been doing fraud and probably still are if they exist for many, many years, perhaps even generations. Barry says, Blumenthal, stolen valor, wholly corrupt, lizard person. I guess you, keyword here, trumped my rat comment. Yes, you did. Stolen valor, wholly corrupt, lizard person. I have no argument against that at all, Barry. It stands, by the way. In fact, boom, I like this button here. Wow. It's going to stand for a little while. I like that. I really do. So this Blumenthal says that the warning draws heavily on findings from a 292-page investigation released last September by the Senate's, the Den of Rats, Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Yeah. My arse. Just like the Unselect Committee on the January 6th Crimes Against America. Yeah, that old ladies and regular citizens were ushered in by the police, walked between the ropes, all that. And then you got your FBIs, your Trans-Tifa, your Azov battalion Nazis from Ukraine. They're bashing in windows and stuff. None of them get caught. Don't get me started. Anyway, in the opinion piece on Fox News, Senator Richard Blumenthal examined the failures of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic Bank, all of which had received clean audits shortly before collapsing. Now, who did these clean audits? Yeah. Clean audits. You know what. CoinDesk. DeFi community sees bad crypto bills collapse as a win, not a setback. So, as I said a few minutes ago, the detractors of this clarity bill, in the end, Lord willing, it will be a good thing. Meaning, we're going to bring cryptos into the mainstream. So, mom, pops, everybody's going to get to have a shot at some sort of, I guess you could call it, alternative financing, because this whole Federal Reserve thing, it's in the crapper, ladies and gentlemen, and that is a kind term. So, on the surface, a delay to a bill that would have made it easier for institutions to participate in DeFi is a net negative. But in reality, it means that the sector is avoiding an overly restrictive framework in the short term, with a warmer framework on the cards when the revised bill hits the table, said Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse on X. Now, from what I understand of it, it's not a lot, but from what I understand of it, it's rather intrusive, this bill, right? So it's like a 240-page bill. If I'm thinking of the same bill, 240-page bill, and the politicians were given 48 hours to read it, and most of them probably don't know how to read. I mean, AOC probably doesn't know how to read. She probably didn't even know how to bartend when she was bartending. But I mean, anyway, I'm off track already. I went squirrel, AOC, squirrel. Anyway, the thing about this bill is there are a lot of negatives from my perspective on privacy. Okay. No, we don't have any privacy with the Federal Reserve. If you think your bank account is private, then you're woefully mistaken. If you think there are people that can't see what you have in your bank account, then again, you're mistaken. And reporting agencies, they know what you're buying, how much of it you're buying, all that stuff, right? That's why they want to go cashless. Well, when you do look at blockchain technology, it's even more exact. For better or for worse, it's exact. It's precise. You can't lie. That's a good thing. The bad thing is, if they allow it, then everything you do is open, just as bad as it would be if it was a bank. Hey, Frank. Good to see you, Frank. Thanks for showing up. Gives us the old thumbs up. Thanks. So we're talking about banks and their mixture with crypto, because hopefully this bill will clarify, as it's called, the Clarity Bill. Hopefully it will clarify what we can and cannot do in reference to cryptos and investments, because right now investments are horrible. We got to give our money over to some institution. I call it thanks, Frank. I call it the Wall Street casino, right? So we have to give over autonomy of our own money. Oh yeah, they're gonna fake us out. Your TSP, you can look at 4 different places to put your money. Yeah. But you know what? You only get to move it twice in a month. Because fees. Yeah, because fees. No, it's not because of fees. It's because they want your money where they want it, because they don't consider it your money. They consider it their money. Same with the bank. When they go up, when they go, you know what I mean? When they die, the banks, if you have money in the banks, you're going to lose it. They're going to take it because they don't consider it your money. They consider it their money. That's just a fact. That's a fact of life right there. So we're going to go off of that, particular crypto thing. If you have any comments, throw them up there. If you learn anything, that I don't know, which is probably a lot. But anyway, we'll talk about it again. But Zero Hedge says, Trump threatens to invoke Insurrection Act as left-wing chaos in Minneapolis spreads. Ladies and gentlemen, I just responded to a friend of mine. He doesn't watch the show because he's just not of our inclination, whatever you want to make of that. But he was ranting about the fact that there was a guy saying that he was going to, unalive some ICE agents, and that it was time that he and his compadres get together and, start whacking, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say too much. Facebook is all over us, right? Delos poll 805. All right. What do we got here? That's a fact of the Communist Manifesto. Yes, and yes, it is. Without a doubt. And Thank you for showing that. You obviously can read the tea leaves. There is nothing about this movement that is organic. There is nothing about this movement that is natural. And there's nothing about this movement that is real. Why do I say that? Because it's all commie stuff. They're all paid. They're all Bolsheviks, right? They're all people that make money. They're confused, obviously, probably very highly educated, or just off of mom's couch. I know that's an extreme, but I don't really mean educated when I say educated. When I say educated, I mean institutionalized. Okay? I guess I should probably preface my statement with that. Now, what I'm getting at is this. I'm getting at the fact that these people hate America. It's not just that they don't like ICE. No, they hate America. Okay? So either they are truly ignorant, which I don't believe for the most part. They're not truly ignorant. They just hate America. They don't like where they live because they don't like themselves. They don't like their lives. They don't like anything, right? Maybe they'll like, a show, or maybe they'll like a video game, or maybe they'll like whatever, but they don't like America, that's for sure. So what I'm getting at is this. This guy, and it was on Facebook, it was a friend of mine named Mike, right? So he puts it out and he's saying, "Ooh, it's happening, it's happening." And I responded in, "Yes, it is happening." And you know what? Pretty soon, these paid protesters are going to meet up, not with just average people that are on the streets telling them that they're crazy, which they are, but they're going to meet up with regular American heroes, real American heroes in uniform, and they're going to be regular Army soldiers. They're going to be Marines. They're going to be probably Spec Ops to get their leaders. Who knows? But you know what? The Insurrection Act is for real. Last time I think it was enacted was 1992, I think, during the LA riots, where we had help from the rooftop Koreans. I don't know if you remember them, but when people would come to loot their stores, they had these sticks that went bang, and they worked, So this guy was, claiming that he was going to use one of those sticks against ICE agents. Well, I'll tell you what, the world you live in is not going to pay for very long, because the communists will be defeated. We will do what we have to do. But here's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. I do not call for violence. I'm not calling for violence at all. I'm not calling for pacifism. Somebody attacks you, you got to defend yourself to the utmost. However, what I will say is we won't have to go into the streets, because once that Insurrection Act is invoked, there's no going back. Those people are going to get it. And I'm not saying they're going to die, this, that, or the other. What I'm saying is they're going to get justice, because this is where I see it going. Our judiciary is completely shot through with corruption. Our legislature is completely shot through with corruption. And the 4 years prior, well, many more than 4, but when Trump hasn't been in, and probably since Kennedy, our presidency, the executive branch, has been shot through with corruption. What am I getting at? You can't rely on any of these branches. We cannot rely on the federal government of the United States as is currently executed, right? So, Julian, good to see you. Throw that comment up there. Howdy to you too. We're talking about the Insurrection Act. We're talking about how some people are saying that they're going to go out there and they're going to hurt ICE agents. We don't want that. Americans, real Americans, don't want that. Okay, Donald Trump, the guy we elected in a mandate, okay, to mass deport people who are here illegally. Okay, yeah, they're not illegals. A human being cannot be illegal. Well, you're right, but the presence here is illegal. Adios. Or what's go in Romanian? Because there's some Romanians here. There's some Chinese here. There's some Israelis here. There's some I guess there's a lot of languages we got to say goodbye in. Okay, but I only know Russian. Das Vidanya. Right? We could say that too. Not too many of those though. They don't like They don't like allowing white people in illegally. For whatever reason, did the Clinton, Obama, and Otto Pen administrations. They didn't like that because I think there was a German family that were Christian and they were being persecuted in Germany because they wanted to homeschool their kids. Well, they wanted to come in while hordes of people from south of us, South America, Chinese, Indians, all them, they were all coming in, but you couldn't have that German family that wanted to homeschool their kids. They were deported. Get them out of here. They wanted to really educate their kids. No, we got a public education system that's ruled by Weingarten. Yeah, Randy Weingarten. Barry says, don't forget about the FBI and Cash is way out in front of his skis. Yeah. You know what, Barry? You tell me if you think it's the case or not, but I think that was all a show. I think a lot of the people in this administration are either attractive, females, right? Pretty much. Or they have a way about TV. They have a personality that lends itself to broadcasting. That's my opinion. Now, this goes back to what I believe. You don't have to believe this, but I firmly believe, and I think there's a lot of evidence for this out there, that the Patriots are in control. And when I say the Patriots, okay, and I don't mean complete control. I mean, they're not controlling anyone's diet. They're not controlling anyone's bowels. All that. No. But they are controlling the macro. I believe they're controlling certain events. They're controlling certain people. They're flipping the tables. We can use the Epstein thing. You know, the records have not come out. What does that mean? It means that the good guys can also use them the way the bad guys were using them. Example, you got a judge, I don't know, you name one, Boasberg, Katanji, I don't know, whatever. You name the judge, right? If that judge has gone to Epstein Island, the good guys now have Epstein Island info. What's to say they don't just use it? Would that be immoral? Maybe. But what if it saves lives of Americans? How do you feel about that? These are good questions. I mean, I'm not saying I know all the answers. I'm just saying I do believe that the U.S. military has been running this country for quite a while, including in the Otto Pen administration. How much and where the hands were exactly on, I don't know. But I think you're going to see that when the Insurrection Act is invoked, the action, the counter reaction, the counterinsurgency will be clean and swift. And it will not include or need civilian action, which is good. But as far as Cash goes, Barry, I think him and Bongino, they're very smart. Don't get me wrong. They're very smart. They're patriots. They're dedicated, but they're placeholders for now. We are watching a movie. Let me put it that way. We're watching a movie. The military is doing exactly what the deep state has been doing for generations. And why does it work? Because we're used to it. We're used to not getting reality. Okay? We're used to getting a movie, a show. You know, you watch mainstream news and what do you get? Lies. You certainly don't get any truth. You certainly don't get the reality of the situation, either on the ground, in the air, or wherever, you know, the action is. You don't get that because the mainstream media doesn't want you to get it. Okay? Now, again, Cash, I think he is out of his element, probably. Julian says, what's your opinion about Greenland? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Greenland, to me, is a buffer. It's a buffer. I mean, I'm sure there are some natural resources there that can be utilized, exploited, whatever word you want to use. Okay. However, here's what I believe Greenland to be. And people will talk about Russia. But remember, we're really close to Russia, just west of Alaska. So Greenland doesn't make sense if we're talking Russia. What Greenland does make sense to is Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe is lost. Europe is just completely completely out of control. I haven't been there, so yeah, there are people that have been there and they saw the touristy spots and they saw this, that, and the other. But here's what's happening. The people, say what you will about the immigrants to our country, but the vast majority of them are at the very least, or have at the very least been brought up in a Christian atmosphere. Okay? The ones that are invading Europe, not so. Their faith tells them that wherever their feet land, they must conquer. And they're doing it. Oh, are they doing it? To include New York City, right? But what's happening is, and back to Greenland, is we're going to need a little bit of space, a little bit of warning between us and Europe, because I do believe that it's headed down the crapper pretty quick. I've never been there. I wanted to go there. I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to, see, I'm half Italian. I want to be, go to Rome or go to just the countryside of Italy and check it out, But I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that. Now, although Meloni, the president there, she's pretty solid now. And she says she's going to kick out all the invaders. We'll see what happens, but she's going to need help, We did help out, in my opinion. We helped El Salvador, so I think we could probably help them. But yeah, to answer your question about Greenland, Julian, it's simply, to me, I believe that it is a strategic move, right, which is above the tactical the tactical tier. So you've got a strategic move because we don't need to necessarily move into tactics if we win on the level of strategy. So if we strategically, and it's going to work out for Greenlanders, not for the Denmark people. No, not for those. I'm going to use a kind word, people. No, not Denmark, right? Not that group, clan, cabal, whatever you want to call them, right? They used to be a monarchy, and then the usual suspects got in there, and they ended up with baron titles and duke titles and all that stuff. So if you know what I'm talking about, then you know. So yeah, Greenland, I think, is going to be a buffer. It's going to be a buffer for Barry says a bad movie. Yes, it is a bad movie, but I think that someday we'll be able to look back in history and we'll be able to dissect it, hopefully show our kids and grandkids. Julian says, is there really an option to obtain it? Yeah, I mean, for us, it seems like a long time, but I mean, we were all taught about the Louisiana Purchase, right? Right? Yeah. So it seems like, hundreds of years ago, but, historically speaking, that's nothing. So yeah, these land purchases, these grabs are, I think, they're on the table. And like I said a minute ago, I really do believe that the Greenlanders are going to make out. They're going to be at the very least recompensed for the transaction. Also, Julian says, been there. Europe hate us. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. But tell me, Julian, if you can follow that up. The stereotype of the ugly American is not always off, is it? I mean, Americans can play the ass in Europe. I mean, look at what they're doing in Minneapolis. Well, are they real Americans? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, what I'm getting at is I think that the ugly American abroad is a real thing. Are we all that way? No. There's a small percentage, but they're really so crude and so loud, they give us all a bad name. Jody, good to see you, Jody. We're talking about Greenland, and my opinion is that it's a buffer between us and Europe because Europe is going down the crapper, and one of these days maybe they'll actually have a military and want to work against us. So Greenland is a really good place to set up an early warning system to say, hey, the European scum is coming, that kind of thing. But, I don't know. I could be wrong. Barry says, listen to the Russian guy, Tucker Carlson, about Russians' intentions in Europe. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to jump into this. This was for later, but I'm going to reiterate a term that I really like. The term is called the Sovereign Alliance. I did not coin it. There's a guy out there, he goes by the pseudonym Burning Bright, who very, very well articulates this. He's a prolific writer. He's on Substack. He's on Rumble. Anyway, the Sovereign Alliance is a group of sovereign nations that our mainstream media says are at odds, that we are the enemies of these people because they want us to be enemies, right? They don't want us to ally because then we would be against the true enemy, right? The banking cabal, the international criminal cabal, the bankers institutions, the Khazarians, the Khazarian mafia, the deep state, pick your term. So this sovereign alliance includes the United States. It includes Russia. It includes El Salvador. It includes China, Xi. It includes North Korea, Kim, right? These are places that either were strong holdouts, Russia, not so much China because they went full modern Russia, right? Modern under Putin, and not the USSR. And now under Xi, people don't understand this because we're at the mercy of the stinking media. But Xi has fought the CCP. The CCP jailed his dad. Okay, so this sovereign alliance, okay, when you're talking about Russians' intention in Europe, the sovereign alliance says, hey, let's threaten. We're going to bring the world to the brink of war. We're all working together here. No missiles from Europe to the U.S., no missiles from the U.S. to to Russia, to China. No, they're all on the phone. Yeah, hey, Xi, yeah, hey, Trump, hey. This is my belief. I'm sticking to it. There's a lot of evidence for this, and maybe one of these days we'll go through it. But yeah, I think the Russians are threatening. They're saber rattling. Barry, that's a good one. I always like that one. Julian says, Denmark did sell us the U.S. Virgin Islands. However, can we have a diplomatic solution to obtain it without force? I think so. Here's why. First of all, NATO has no arms, so they're going to saber rattle or whatever, but they're not going to fight us. The second thing is, if I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of Greenlanders, if that's the correct term, want to be part of us, or they at least want to have an alliance with us. Maybe they're going to be sovereign. Maybe there's going to be some sort of, like Puerto Rico, something like that. I don't know. A territory, I'm not sure. But I think from what I understand, most of them want to, they would rather deal with us than Denmark. Not sure, though. Hey, Omar, good to see you. Glad you can make it. Barry says he's a top advisor to Putin. Oh, is it Lavrov? There's two. And again, going back to that Burning Bright guy, it's really cool because Lavrov and the other guy, I can't remember, but it's good cop, bad cop. So one of them, Lavrov is a good cop, I think. The other guy will come up and he'll say, yeah, hey, and this was one of his statements. Hey, Trump went in and sacked up Maduro. Why can't we go in and sack up Zelensky? Great idea, right? Great idea. And then Lavrov comes on from Russia and he says, well, you know what he really meant to say was, it went very well, and maybe we ought to consider these things. He schmoozed it over, right? But in truth, why don't they just sack up Zelensky? That'd be great. That'd be awesome. But yeah, it could be Lavrov, and there's another guy. I think it begins with a K. Not sure. Jody says, kind of busy. Just set up a call to action in my own town, Buffalo, New York, against those ICE protesters who popped up, and we know they are not from our area. Thank you, Jody. Thank you. By the way, in case you don't know, Jody is from my hometown, Buffalo, New York, and there's a place. It's an Indian name, so you probably wouldn't pronounce it well if you read it. Cheektowaga. Okay, so there's a place called Cheektowaga, and it's famous right now on Facebook for having people that we suspect, I would imagine, Jody, you suspect also, have been paid to go to town hall and tell everybody how bad ICE is for stealing their neighbors. Now, they don't care if the neighbors are illegal. They don't care if the neighbors are sucking up their tax money because they live in New York, right? It's natural. If you drink water, it's like that's what the government does with your tax dollars. They drink it. They suck it up. It's gone. And they piss it away like Hochul. So, yeah, they're not from our area, Jody. Thank you for that. See, Jody is acting in good faith, right? He's not one of those paid protesters. Nobody's going to pay him to go do this, right? Who's up? Jody, about to hit the streets here in Buffalo, just like Minneapolis. Are you going to stream this or anything? Maybe we could stream this out also. We'll see. But be careful, brother. The odds are stacked against you in New York. You might as well, be in 1980s USSR, Moscow. You might as well be there, right? Or in today's Europe, where you can't even like a post without going to jail. That's the UK. God bless you, by the way, Jody, if you're still watching. God bless you. May you be safe, blessed, and protected. Barry says, how about Iran? That's another one. here's my my thoughts on these countries. A lot of these countries, I believe personally that the usual suspects, the banking cartel, and I won't go through the whole thing, but the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, deep state, they balkanize countries like they did with Russia. They created Ukraine. Ukraine, they've always been areas, but they were once Russia. The reason why they balkanize these countries, okay, is so that they can make them trigger points in the future. So that they can start a war at a moment's notice and then just ramp it up, and when it runs out or gets boring, they start a war somewhere else. Iran is one of those places. They toppled using our 3-letter agencies, and they begin with a C and they end with an A, right? And in the middle is that. So that's what they do to us, that 3-letter agency. They work with the Mossad of Israel, okay? And they topple nations everywhere in the world. So they did it to Iran. They did it to the United States, 2020, right? So one of the things we're going to find out is this, and I got my phone connected to it. Now it's not. One of the things we're going to find out is this. We're going to find out where Iran really stands. And in my opinion, it's the people, and they really do want to be, again, back like they were in the 70s. Do yourselves a favor, everybody, when you get a chance. Look at Iran. Put it in your favorite search engine. I use Brave. Put it in there. Look at photos, images from Iran in the 1970s. There's some in the beach. You would not know it from any beach here in America. They were free. They were free until the 3 letters of our nation and that other one in that place in the Middle East. They messed with it. So Omar says Greenland, 51st state. Maybe. And why not? Another part of this sovereign alliance, guys, is the carving out of zones. And it's not that we're world police, but look at what the globalists did in El Salvador prior to Bukele going in and jailing all of MS-13. Those people, they had the highest murder per capita in the world years going. That's what they do. They destabilize. And then they ship them here, via Bush, Obama, Clinton, right? They ship them here because those are their foot soldiers. But again, the Patriots derailed that plan. Julian says, I understand and agree with the need of obtaining Greenland. I would prefer a diplomatic approach first. Yes. Julian, I agree with you, but who knows that there hasn't been one already? What do I mean? The style, again, we're going to go back to this. We're watching a movie thing. The style of Donald Trump is a bombastic one, and that's why he was recruited by the U.S. military to run for president. Okay? Why do I say that? Watch the 2016 inaugural address of Donald Trump with all the deep state puppets, Bush, Clinton, Obama, all of them, right? They were all there sitting at the 2016 inaugural address. Donald Trump is telling people, and at the moment he's telling people that he's going to give the power back to the people. The crowd behind him opens up. Military men not surround the front of him, but encapsulate him from the rear and the flanks. They stay about a minute, maybe a little longer, then they disappear again, and the rest of the people come back in. It's the U.S. military, guys. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. You don't have to believe me, but we needed a counterinsurgency. Our nation was thrown. It was overthrown. It was a color revolution, just like they do in all others, right? And I'm not just saying it was Obama. Everybody knows he was in on it, right? He's a product. He's an asset, okay? But so was Bush, right? So was Clinton. These are people that are put in positions because they're easily manipulated. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, everybody wants to say, oh, he's this, he's that, he's in the Epstein files. Yeah, let's see. Let's get him open and we'll see. Anyway, he didn't need a payoff. He's, if not self-made, his dad helped him, but he's got enough money. And he showed his patriotism early on. But yeah, what I would say to this statement, Julian, or that you would prefer a diplomatic approach first, I agree with you. But there's nothing saying that it wasn't already offered or is now on the table or is almost agreed to already, but it's just not publicized. That would be my take on that. Julian says, that's the same one. Jody, I have a small army. Awesome. Just protect yourself, please. If you have any off-duty cops, that means a lot in New York. Doesn't mean anything here in Texas, but it does mean a lot in New York. They are respected. If you have any off-duty cops, if you have any, county people, whatever, any people that are unionized of that kind, hopefully they're on your side. Jody also says we will be there January 27th, 5:30 p.m., and I expect for the news channel to be at the town hall again. I will be speaking. Awesome. Hit me up before that, please. I'll figure out the date and everything like that. I'd like to, in fact, maybe we can even get you, I'll get you on the show between now and then. What's today's date? The 15th or something like that. So yeah, let's communicate, Jody. And I'd love to have you on the show. We can interview you. You can go into detail. And then all of us that are watching now can watch what you and your crew do down there, up there in New York. Julian says, explain some more about the military selecting Trump. Okay, so this goes back to a thing that it won't be, I don't think it'll be censored by Facebook anymore, but it's about what the mainstream enemy, whatever you want to call them, the cabal, they call it QAnon. There's no such thing as QAnon, okay? There is the Q group, okay? And then there are Anons that monitor the drops of the Q group, okay? They started out on 4chan. They went to 8chan as 4chan was compromised by the evil ones. 8chan, same thing. And then they went on 8kun. They've pretty much stopped their drops. They can, all of the drops, there's 5,000 some drops, okay? They can be examined. They can, the vast majority of them are presented in the Socratic method, meaning they're not telling you so much as trying to prompt you to ask questions, both of yourself, of our society, of our government. Asking questions brings information in a way that the human mind absorbs much better than being told what to believe, okay? There are ways of programming people, and the evil ones know that, and it's usually trauma, okay? Inundation and overload, which is TV, movies, music, right? All this. This is what the evil ones do to our kids and to us if we let them. But this operation, this counterinsurgency came about, this is my opinion, came about because there is really no way for us to assemble a civilian response to this worldwide network of evildoers. And if you don't really agree with that on the offset or buy the term, think the pandemic. Worldwide, Julian. It wasn't just America that had to get shot. It wasn't just America that had to wear a mask. It wasn't just America that had to, this fictitious 6-foot nonsense that we couldn't have any human contact, right? They designed that to run for 10 years. Had it not been for Operation Warp Drive, and we can debate that too, it would have went perhaps 10 years, but it was cut. It was nipped in the bud, right? But we went through enough for us to realize that this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is worldwide. This is not relegated just to the United States. The enemy we face, okay, is a worldwide enemy. It has its tentacles, its talons everywhere. So what we can do is I can get together with you sometime, Julian, and we can talk about it, but or I can send you links and stuff like that. Hit me up on the Messenger or WhatsApp or wherever you got my number, and we can either talk about it or I can send you some links. There's a show on Rumble that is just superb. It's a little long, so I take it in chunks, right? So it's driving to work. If I'm in the field, I'm listening to it on in the unit or wherever, and then I'll be at home, going home, or driving the kid to school, whatever. I'll listen to it. Superb, and I can give you a link to that. I think you will be very well, if not educated, then edified by listening to these very intelligent people speak in long form. It's not back and forth. Oh, we got to go to a commercial break. This is a long form thing that takes a little bit more cognitive effort, but it's worthwhile. Let's see. Omar says, Venezuela and Iran were productive, rich nations, and then they went to shit. Now the people are rebelling. You are right, sir. You are right. Let me tell you something, though, Omar. And now that I think of it, let me write it down. I don't know where's my pen. I'm going to send you a link to an amazing. It's only the length of a movie, right? I'm going to send you this. And it's on. And I even sent it to our good friend, Adrian Lara. Because I'm amazed. I'm amazed. Based on this man's enormous ability to dig things up. He went to 60 Minutes. He went to documentaries back in the 70s and stuff like that. He schooled me on Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez is not who we were taught he was. I'll send it to you, Omar. Send Omar link. And you're going to see something if you care to, right? You don't have to watch it. Wow. It's amazing what we've been lied to about. I'll just say that about Venezuela. Oh, and they're not going to let that Machado, whatever you want to call her, in. She's a plant. She's swampy. She's been swampy since the 70s, man. 70s, 80s, whatever. You got to watch this thing. Anyway, Julian says a spiritual battle. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. At its base, this is good versus evil, as has been since the creation of time itself. Thank you for that. Barry says, they've been exposed. How do they get through Charlie Kirk? I know. There's a lot of theories about that, Barry. There's a lot of theories about Charlie Kirk and his wife, who was working for the CIA in 2013. I don't know if you saw those videos. She was given a briefing. Lot to digest there. I won't even pretend to know where to begin on the Charlie Kirk thing. Jody says, gotta go. It's posted to my page if you want to show support. Of course I do. Be safe. Thank you. You too, Jody. God bless you. Dan Bauer. We took back what Venezuela stole 4 years ago. Yes. If you're referring to that whole oil thing, yes. I mean, I don't know if I have explained this before, but my understanding is that there was an international court that ruled for the United States oil companies and against Venezuela because they didn't pay the damages, I guess it was. So apparently when it was nationalized, all the oil was nationalized in Venezuela, a lot of the contracts with the big oil people were broken. So the international court said that, Venezuela had to pay, and it never did. So when America goes in and takes out these, not takes out, but seizes these oil tankers, they're taking what the court has already awarded. That's what I understand. It could be different or wrong. I'm not sure. But man, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I really enjoy everybody that's still watching. I can't see exactly how many are still on. But 7 of us are still on. Thank you very much for this participation. We're coming up on the close. If anybody's got any closing comments, I'll hit them. We got Dan saying all of South America is scared stupid of the new American season technology. Yes. So you're probably referring to that video where the guy, one of the Cuban elite guards, says, hey, there were like 20 soldiers of theirs and hundreds of ours, and we couldn't stand. We were bleeding out the ears. We went unconscious. Yeah, man. Yeah. I think your statement is completely correct and accurate. Whatever the American military has. And, a lot of people say, oh, Trump is, he's verbose. That's true. He's, he likes to use hyperbole. That's true. He likes to talk very in a braggadocious manner. That's true. But you know what? Truly, no one can beat us. That's why they had to infiltrate us. That's why they had to overthrow us from within. That's why they have to pay people to protest. Because you cannot invade America and succeed. You cannot go toe-to-toe with America and succeed. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So they had to cheat. Okay? The banking cartel. The pharmaceutical cartel. Right? International politics. They're all owned by the same people. The enemy is ubiquitous. Worldwide. But that's why it always had to be. And Julian, if you're still watching, it always had to be the U.S. military. Let's just say we're patriots, and that's the truth. There's still 6 people on. Let's say we as patriots want to get together, take America back. You do know that at the first meeting, be it a Zoom, be it a town hall, whatever we decide to meet, wherever we decide to meet and however we decide to do it, you realize that there's going to be at least 2 FBI agents in there? Hey guys, that's not what you're doing. I want in. You know that, right? You know it'll be infiltrated the very first meeting. It had to be the U.S. military, ladies and gentlemen. It had to be. And my money and heart and soul, body, not my soul. Jesus says that. My body is on the line saying that it had to be the military. It is the military. And if it's not, I'll defend my house and home, my family, and yours. Who knows how high the hill of brass is going to get. But I'll defend it. I don't know. I'll defend it, though. So, weapon tech, Dan says, weapon tech. Oh, you're right. Oh, you're right. And it's not just based here on the earth. I would imagine other countries have an Elon Musk. Or is Elon Musk just a face? Right? I mean, what do you think Zuckerberg is? You think he's real? You think he really went from a dropout college to a multimillionaire because he did Facebook, which was really a 3-letter operation? No. Jack Dorsey, Twitter? No. No, these are all figureheads. Is Elon Musk just the face of a wing of the U.S. military? Your guess is as good as mine. I got to go, everybody. Time's up. But I want to ask our great, wonderful God to bless you, to bless your families, and to bless our country. Jody, I admire you, sir, and I thank you for doing your part as an American, going to the town hall meeting with like-minded patriots. Thank you. Be careful, please. The enemy is about. I'll be praying for you, and if you, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, Jody. We'll talk about it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Frank, for the blessings. Read the Bible, says Barry. Wow. All the words I said today, I don't know that they mean as much as what you just said, Barry. Read the Bible. You know why? Well, I can give you a billion reasons, but I'm going to give you a great one right now. The ending. God wins. God wins. Yeah. Just like Julian said earlier. Here's Julian. What do you say? Spiritual battle. God wins. Get on the right side. Get on the right side. Jesus is knocking at the door. You going to answer? Or are you going to leave him wait? Because you don't have the time. I don't have the time. Gallows pole 805. Socratic method? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. You get it, sir or ma'am. You get it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. This was a great and very stimulating conversation. I learned. I got a chance to explain my point of view. And whether you agree or not, we kept it peaceful. Thank you. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless America. Amen.